Hi, I'm Brooke Thackeray. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today we're going to take a look at the upcoming week, what to expect as far as earnings announcements, which is fairly light to be honest, and also economic reports as well, and how it might impact the overall markets as well. So let's jump right in by taking a look at the calendar this week here for earnings announcements. We do have a CVS Healthcare coming out on Tuesday, Emera Utility Company, a mining company, First Quantum, coming out on Tuesday as well. So typically these sectors, companies, whether it's technology or banking, the companies in the sector tend to report approximately at the same time. And in this time period, we're tending to find a lot of the mining companies reporting. Shopify on Wednesday will be reporting. That'll be closely watched, particularly in Canada. Another mining company, Rio Tinto. Then we got Nutrien, Walmart, consumer staples coming out there. Waste Management on Thursday. Now, waste management tends to actually perform well at this time of the year. So it'll be interesting to watch. Bear Gold. So gold's been struggling a little bit. A lot of people are still caught up with the gold miners. It'll be interesting to see exactly what takes place as far as their earnings announcement and how it affects the overall sector. It's a big company, so obviously it's well followed. Another company, Tech Resources, mining company, once again reporting on Thursday. And the metals and mining companies have actually been showing a little bit of a spike up recently. So as the earnings roll out here, let's see what happens with those companies. Canadian Tire tends to be weak in January on a seasonal basis and tends to perform well from over the long term, on average, from February the 11th to April the 12th. And I put that in one of my previous books as well. So they're going to report on Thursday. So let's see how they end up doing. Magna on Friday. Now, Magna, car parts company, the auto industry tends to perform well starting in late February into April. And this tends to be one of the better periods of time for the car companies. But let's see how Magna reports. Might give us some indication as far as that goes. Also, just a quick list, and I'll go through these in a little more detail as well. Retail sales coming out on Wednesday, I should say. That's going to be interesting as well because it hasn't been great. PPI, industrial production, and API crude oil stock. The API crude oil stock, a lot of news going around the whole energy sector on the oil draw, and so that'll be a closely watched one. And then we do have the FOMC minutes on Wednesday as well. Don't expect anything big there. Housing starts month over month coming out on Thursday. Now, the housing sector is actually being closely followed because there's been a lot of money coming into that sector. And then we do get EIA numbers coming out for the crude and gasoline as well. And we do see the Marquette PMI numbers coming out on Friday, not as closely followed as the ISM PMI numbers, but nevertheless a good indication as well. And once again, we get the existing home sales coming out on Friday. If we take a look at the calendar here, I should say, the report coming out on Wednesday for the retail home sales. Let me just get this going here. U.S. retail sales, I should say, not home, retail sales. You can see here that retail sales on a month-over-month basis really hasn't really been that strong recently. We're talking about a stock market that's been moving up. People are looking at the economy, saying it's improving. As we see, COVID-19, ebb and wane. It depends on what's happening as far as lockdowns goes and vaccines and everything else. But really, the retail sales really haven't been that strong on a month-over-month basis recently. And it's expected in this case here, the consensus is for a slight movement up overall. So we'll have to see what happens, but so far it hasn't really been that impressive for the sector. And to be honest, in the market, the retail sector has not been performing well. And on a seasonal basis, the retail sector tends to perform well from typically late January into the end of March or even into mid-April as well. But so far that hasn't happened for the retail sector on a cap-weighted basis. So it'll be interesting to see those numbers. And then we get the API numbers coming out for the crude stock inventory here on Wednesday. Now, in this case here, now we have seen some drawdowns taking place. And although, in this from API's figures, they have been getting less overall. But it has been making the news. Oil price has been moving up because we have seen some drawdowns as the crude oil stock goes. Industrial production coming out as well on a Wednesday. And Wednesday, if you take a look at this, this is on a year-over-year basis for industrial production. And we're still down, obviously, from a year-over-year basis. We're not seeing this huge upwards trend improvement taking place here on production, where we're really ramping up very strong at this point. So a lot of the expectations, a lot of the hype is really looking far in the future. And so far, we just haven't seen that huge uptick as far as the production goes. Now, as the economy reopens, and that's what investors are expecting, we could actually see this do quite well. And if we take a look at on the same industrial production on a month-over-month basis, it does look a little bit better. We are seeing some month-over-month improvements. Nothing really huge where it's jumping out really strong, but we are seeing some improvement there. And if we take a look at gasoline stocks change, and this is using EIA numbers here. Now, people really focus on the oil stock drawdown, but gasoline has also been building. Okay, so, and you have to net the two out. And the refineries are in the middle, obviously. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this week, because Texas has actually been shutting down some refineries because of the extreme cold weather that's been taking place. And the state's in disarray, and they've declared a national emergency for the state as well, with this extreme cold weather and obviously some snow and ice taking place down there, and rotating power blackouts that are brownouts, I should say, that are being instituted to try and preserve power. So we have seen some closure as far as refineries go. But on the gasoline stock, we have seen a build overall. And if we take a look at the oil stock here, you can see here that we have seen this negative number here once again. And the expectations were, in this case here, if we take a look at last week on the consensus, was actually for a build last week, and we ended up having a draw as well. So that'll be interesting to see what happens this week with everything that's taking place. U.S. housing starts as well. If you take a look overall, housing starts, so this is from the build side, they've been going up. In fact, they've really been going up for quite some time here, which has actually been, that industry is really trying to take advantage of what's taking place as far as low interest rates and an appetite in the overall market to buy houses as well. U.S. existing home sales. But interesting, look at this. We have seen a tick downward. So this is existing home sales, and it's been really fairly flat overall. But definitely something to watch out for as far as the overall market goes. So this week, it's not a lot of earnings coming out, major earnings. We're starting to get into some of the metals and mining companies as well. We'll see some gold companies reporting. Barrick's going to be the biggie there as far as that goes. Retail sales, it's going to be a closely watched number, I think, because investors really want to get a pulse on what's happening, if consumers are still shopping. And so far, those numbers really haven't been showing a huge uptick as well. Home sales, the home builders from a seasonal perspective tend to actually start to underperform starting in early February. Now, they've actually been performing quite well recently because we've seen, this uptick as far as home starts goes. But on a seasonal basis, they tend to roll over right about now on average. So it'll be interesting to see how they report this week as far as the overall broad number goes. So I think this week it's not so much about the earnings companies. We don't see some huge bellwether companies that are really market setters, but we do see some of the important earnings economic reports, I should say. And I think that's really retail and also some of the energy numbers and home reports as well. Something to watch out for. Thank you very much.